This video is going to be my second look at the Ravens' third down conversions, some of the preferred concepts that Todd Monken calls in particular situations. On Monday, I broke down option concepts on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, generally out of 11 personnel, and how I feel like we've been less automatic in those situations. And in that video, I utilized 1st and 10 or even 2nd and 10 option plays to show the difference in the expected yards that we receive or that we're able to gain in each of those moments. I feel like we've been less automatic utilizing the option on 3rd and short here recently. Similarly, our completion percentage on 3rd downs and overall in the last 3 weeks has dipped. And that's even though we have two really good defenses sandwiched around the road win against the Chargers. I think it's quite obvious that they were not able to keep up with us from a defensive standpoint. Soft block destruction. Derrick Henry runs for 140. We didn't need Lamar to do a ton in that game. Look, we're really good on 3rd downs in 2024. Ravens are at 46% conversion rate. And that's improved or an uptick from 41% in 2023, Todd Monken's first year here. I think it's important to look at the different sub-chapters of our 3rd downs and during the bye week or preparing for the Giants game at this point. I wanted to look at these situations. So 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 was Monday. 3rd and medium, up to 3rd and 7 will be today. I will have a 21 and 22 personnel video out maybe later this evening or perhaps on Wednesday. These are concepts or situations that I think Monken and Lamar rely on and that they execute at a very high level, and at least one missed opportunity here at the end from a foundational standpoint. Basically, what I think Monken is telling Lamar to read initially when we have an advantage against a particular defensive back. As it relates to Lamar, the reality is the last 3 weeks, he's been less efficient than the incredible start that he had up to the game against the Steelers. Last 3 weeks, Steelers, Chargers, and then Eagles. He's 60% completion rate, so 55 of 91 passing. Only 627 yards. So the average there for per game average, 207 yards per game. Prior to that, I believe he was 268 yards average per game and 69% completion percentage. So there's been a drop in efficiency the last 3 weeks. Why? Well, we're playing better defenses, number one. We're further into the season, number two. So teams have an idea of what we want to do in a particular situation or a particular down and distance with a personnel group on the field. I kind of alluded to that in Monday's video about the option concepts on 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Finally, I think we've been put in more 3rd downs in the last 3 weeks. That's where my motivation came from to look at these and with an eye forward to the playoffs. If we're fortunate enough to get there, no matter what the seed is, we're going to have to convert 3rd downs against good defenses. And so I wanted to prepare myself and anyone like you who was interested for those situations. So let's get to the film. And these are going to be separated kind of by concept and where we're attacking. Now, 3rd and medium, pretty much most teams have this in the playbook. Mesh. There's a little bit of an extra dynamic here. The running back is going to delay release, so he's going to help on the defensive end. It's not Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett was actually lined up against, surprise, Daniel Falele as the right guard. Lamar sees this, so he sees the opening for Likely. So you've got underneath route by Likely, who kind of sits down, and then Andrews making it look like he might sit down in the middle of the field, but he shoots this route vertical to carry defenders with him. And you can see that Likely is wide open underneath here, but the problem is Lamar's having to deal with Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett lined up against Daniel Falele, looped all the way around. He's not able to complete the sack. So our efficiency, our conversion rate, it's clearly being impacted by our offensive line at times. Their inability to pick up stunts, number one. Number two, situations where teams recognize the advantage that they have, particularly going up against our right guard or our left guard in pass pro. Lamar is able to make it work. Completion to Likely on a 3rd and 6. Mesh concept with a little bit of a variation in Andrews' route. Mesh-ish here on another 3rd and 6. This is against the Bengals dating back to before the Steelers game. Andrews is going to get an outside release. It kind of looks a little bit wonky here with Bateman's motion down. Him and Andrews kind of bump into each other. I say mesh-ish because you do have a drag from one side, the running back releasing to the other. By the way, he did actually chip release. Lamar is targeting the correct guy here. Bateman right in the middle of the field. Able to get the conversion. Bateman's been better on 3rd downs than a lot of people think. This may actually be 3rd and 7. I have it marked as 3rd and 6. I just saw the sticks. So against this Tampa 2, Zay is kind of getting depth to basically force this Mike linebacker, Logan Wilson, to go with him. Bateman's able to sit it down. I think this is Aguilar kind of almost getting in the window. He drifts past. I think Aguilar recognized that, the ball, quote, should be out at a certain time. He's chipping on the backside. I feel like I'd like him to get out of there, like get out of the way. I know he may be reading zone here. So if you're reading zone, sometimes you'll sit down. But to me, like you've got to have awareness that there's another route. Lamar steps up. This is almost a little bit of a pseudo jump pass by Lamar. Completion to Bateman, who, like I said, in my opinion, has had a better impact on third downs this year than maybe we all expected after 2023. Another great job by Lamar of just getting the ball out. So why do I bring up mesh and underneath drags initially? Well, number one, it was a route that we didn't throw a lot of prior to even 2023. There's still times where I think it's open this year, but it also leads into this play here, where on this 3rd and 5 or 3rd and goal from the 5, Cincinnati pre-snap and then post-snap looks like they're doubling Andrews. Lamar obviously is going to look in that direction first. He confirms it. So when I say confirms it, look at the leverage that these two guys are playing with. Outside leverage on Andrews, inside leverage on Andrews. So taking the perspective, hey, we're just going to make somebody else beat us. And in this case, Lamar is able to get out of there. I think it's his Geno Stone kind of in no man's land, whether to attack Lamar or look for some work, some coverage, the jump pass, fade away, whatever you want to call it for a touchdown. Kind of we thought or we hoped to finish them off at that point. Really looking for plays myself. With Andrew surging recently, I feel like he's been more efficient, more involved, made more impact plays as the defenses have gotten tougher. And I believe that teams at a certain point want to take him away. And I'm giving you film evidence or examples of that. What are we going to do? What concepts are we going to rely on? What players to try to mitigate that, to make them pay? We've got Flowers and Bateman guys who have won plenty of routes and been consistent catching the ball. I think there are better options than guys like Aguilar right now pretty clearly. 3rd and 5 against Cincinnati earlier in the season. It's bunch A, pre-snap. It's quite clear here that it looks like it could be a double, at least pre-snap. That's the look they're giving them. We end up getting man down here to the bunch and just a clean win by Zay Flowers on an in-breaking route against DJ Turner. Zay's just too fast to be able to, and too agile to be able to give him these types of releases over the middle of the field. Logan Wilson, I think, is a little bit late getting back to the middle. They were hinting or showing a double. I don't necessarily think that they were doing so. Andrews is chipping, and then Logan Wilson doesn't really show the desire to touch him. As a result, there's all that space afforded in the middle of the field for Flowers to convert against man. These are, the last two plays, in my opinion, complementary routes or situations that are built off of the possibility of a team doubling Andrews in 3rd down moments. Moving forward to different conceptual type of plays, these are check X routes. So essentially targeting the backside receiver. Now, it's a little bit of a gray area for what I'm talking about here because Andrews is lined up on the same side as Tylan Wallace. You guys all know what play this is even before we run it. There is no pre-snap indicator by Cincinnati that they're going to double Andrews at all. Speed out by Tylan Wallace, able to break free from CTB, also get past both defenders for the Bengals and take it to the house. These are, I think, and I'm leading up to a point here about the Eagles game. I think there's two situations in the Eagles game where if Lamar was told to look over there, then we had opportunities to win on the backside against DBs that I think we could take advantage of. I'm talking about against the Eagles. Wallace and Bateman have won on the backside solo this year, even though there's another receiver there in the case of Mark Andrews. Lamar trusts those guys. This is quick. I believe he's working inside out. So Andrews and then to Wallace, since he's got the coverage confirmed. Enough mustard on the ball to get it out there to Tylan Wallace quick enough such that when he gets a hold of it, he can speed up the sideline for a huge touchdown. I think we've got more wins and more attempts, more looks at the backside X receivers in 2024 than we had in 2023. Here's another one. There's a 3rd and 6, speed out to Bateman. Doesn't break it, but there's no one else over here. So it's not like Lamar is working inside out from Andrews to the X like on the previous play. He's working directly to Bateman against a particular DB over there. Bateman makes it work, ends up getting the first down. when people talk about spread offenses, I think it's important to mention or to note that you have to have horizontal threats across the width of the field, and we do now. And in some cases, I think some of our third and medium play calls have not necessarily reflected that. And the one play that I'll use to explain that will be against the Eagles here coming up. As we face the tougher defenses later in the season or in the playoffs, we need to beat the Steelers. That's pretty obvious. They're going to play man in certain third down situations. I think we've got to give Bateman, Flowers, those guys opportunity, Wallace as well, opportunities to win on the backside, independent of a route concept, of a read, something like that. Essentially, Lamar being able to throw the ball to a spot, those guys win to get to that spot, whether it's a comeback, whether it's a speed out, whether it's a vertical or a curl. Another example of a backside route, a win here on a 3rd and 5. This is Bateman against Washington. Of course, him and Zay absolutely shredded that secondary. I think they were 14 of 14 targets to catches. There was also a pass interference call there on a 3rd down against Washington. Bateman here operating against, I think it's St. Justus, but I could be wrong. You can see he's even, but he's pressing the vertical enough such that Lamar is already preparing to throw the football. Zay had went over the middle of the field, or excuse me, Aguilar. Both guys were open. Flowers on the right, the bottom side of our screen, and Bateman coming back. Lamar could have thrown it to either one. Second time that we faced the Bengals here, not necessarily a check X concept, so we're moving forward here from away from those type of plays. 3rd and 4, it's a slant flat. Going back and looking at some of the film this week, there are some routes by Aguilar that are a little concerning for me. I would say this is a slow route. Granted, you are running into the boundary at a certain point, but we're over to the wide side of the field, and I just think this is too damn slow of a route. It's the second time I've seen one in this video, and 4 that I was able to discover Monday into Tuesday by going back and looking at 3rd down concepts. So Lamar had initially looked up here, taken away by Pratt against Andrews. He's coming back with his visual down here to Bateman and or Aguilar. And as a result, since the safety is reading his helmet, he sees Lamar look to the side. He breaks on that route to Bateman. Lamar makes it happen, gets it out to Bateman. Great hands to be able to snag this ball in midair and then turn and get away from, I believe it's Geno Stone. Like I said, converting a 3rd and 4. The 3rd time in this video that's a ridiculous job by Lamar in finding time to get it out. It's quite clear to everyone at this point that our draft focus this year needs to be on offensive line. There's nothing wrong with admitting that, even though we're still in the 2024 season. We've been deficient, especially against the good defensive lines. And this is an example, or this is a play that I'll use to prove that, the fact that our coaches know it. Now, granted, we are backed up to our own end zone on this 3rd and 5. This is early in the game. This is a poor throw by Lamar. Let's get that out of the way. But this call does 2 things, one positive, one negative. It does at least tell us that our coaches are aware of the fact that, hey, we're going to have trouble pass proing down here. We don't want to give up a safety. So let's go sprint out, what we would call 200 sprint to the right, so that Lamar gets outside of the pocket, has the option to throw it away if he wants to. We're trying to remove or the possibility of any of Lamar being tackled behind that line, because we would forfeit 2 points if that occurred. It's called mitigating risk. I'm glad that Todd Monken did that in this case. I wish we did it more often as an entire team, coaches on down to players. We rarely use sprint out. We don't necessarily need to. In that situation, I think it's a good decision and a good call by Todd Monken. However, it's not a positive that we feel the need that we have to do that because of how often our offensive line was losing against the pass rush of the Eagles. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. I have to cover this one. 3rd down against the Eagles. It's in the 3rd quarter. This is prior to Justin Tucker's, I think, first missed field goal in the 3rd quarter. And look, it's a nice example of how getting hands on someone at the line of scrimmage can disrupt the play. Zay Flowers is going to motion down here, and I believe it's DeJean is going to make contact with Andrews. The outside linebacker is going to make contact with Andrews. And then DeJean does as well. Now, it's fair for people to say, well, once Flowers makes this China out cut, and he's headed towards the sideline. Can't we just throw the ball over there, loft it? Yes, no problem. We can say that. But we don't get the view that Lamar does. In my opinion, there are guys in his field of vision, probably these two here, number one, and Lamar doesn't know how these two have sifted it out. I don't believe he can see this. I guess it's one of the reasons people want your quarterback to be 6'5". You can see over things. I understand that. That's cool and that's fair and all. That's not necessarily my point here with this particular play. My point is what's not happening up here. Now, I don't think Bateman really runs a route here to win. It looks like we're just gonna have to throw it up the field to him. I'd like to see us on a deep comeback, a back shoulder fade, something when we have this matchup. I have seen enough film to know that that is not the same quality level of corner as a Slay or Quinyon Mitchell. And when he was in the game, I thought we should have been targeting him, especially with how many wins we have on the backside of the formation so far this year. I'm also comfortable with someone saying, hey, coach, you're also the same guy that said we should run the ball in these situations. Yeah, you're damn right. In some of those moments when we're down by 2, I would like to see us run the ball a little bit more, get into a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 2, and then make our decision whether we're going to go for it or not at that time, as opposed to creating more risk by putting a poor or average to poor offensive line, or inconsistent, however you want to describe it, in a situation where they had to pass pro against a D-line that was giving us trouble to that point. But it really, from an Eagles perspective, from a defensive perspective, it provides us an example or proof that jamming up defensive ends can be a huge asset. Jamming up with your defensive end, outside linebacker, can be a huge asset. I would like to see us target the backside X there and give him an opportunity to win against someone who I think he's got a matchup edge on, and that's Bateman against number 34. Finally, a real patented concept for the Ravens in the last 2 years has been snag smash. This particular one is 3rd and 7. Real pre-snap indicator when Flowers motions down. And I do appreciate the fact that Lamar just threw it to the running back. He got rid of it quick, such that when Hill caught it, he's able to make a move. This is longer than a 3rd and 4. My apologies. I have it mislabeled. Zay is given a little bit of a screen/rub pick here. Seems like they're calling that more often lately. This actually looks like 3rd and 7. You can see the marker at the bottom side of the screen. We have enough playmakers to threaten horizontally. So we are a true spread team when we need to be. We're also a spread team in terms of the allocation of targets or touches. Lamar and Monken are both willing to move the ball around to multiple guys. I think it's interesting, the 3rd downs that we've seen this year when Andrews is not on the field. I wish that I had enough time to go back and track those. It will probably not occur during the regular season. Essentially what I mean is 11 personnel with Likely on, 11 personnel with Andrews on. What's the difference in the coverages that we're seeing, the umbrella, and how teams are reacting specifically to the tight end into the boundary? That was snag smash, the last one I showed you. Multiple teams run it across the NFL. You pretty much see it in every game from one team or the other, oftentimes both. I think we're really good in 3rd and medium situations. I tried to portray the ability, the high percent efficiency that we have throwing to the backside X against certain matchups, Tylan Wallace and Rashad Bateman being the two that are generally utilized there, rather than throwing some of the slot fades to Aguilar. I would prefer to see us throw to the backside X. That's a little bit of a simplistic evaluation. There's other routes on those plays. In my opinion, we're just not getting the return on those throws to Aguilar when we're facing man. I would prefer to get the ball to Bateman, even Tylan Wallace, and or Zay Flowers to the backside. You're welcome to let me know what you think of that thought and the film breakdown that I've provided here, the plays that I used to try to illustrate how effective we've been on 3rd downs, and why I think it's an important situation, an important dynamic for this team moving forward against the good defenses. If we want to beat the Steelers, if we want to beat the Texans on the road later in the season, we're going to have to convert 3rd downs, and we have the personnel to get it done. We have the scheme to get it done. I think Todd Monken and to a certain extent Lamar at times, but Lamar seems quite willing to throw to the backside X. Those matchups are there against some of the teams. Those matchups are there in the film, some of the film that I have shown you, but you've all seen multiple misses to Aguilar in third down situations where it was either a drop and or we just weren't open. In my opinion, the level of efficiency that he's playing at should be almost phased out in those third down moments, even though he's made big plays for us in 2023. We've got a guy who's 9 for 9 catch percentage in Tylan Wallace. Zay Flowers up above 72%, I believe, catch percentage. Mark Andrews, if you're not aware, I think is at 83% catch percentage this year. And I think Rashad Bateman is at a career high 66. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the film study breakdown, please let me know in the comment section, first of all. And then number two, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this video, my comments and some of the film that I chose to illustrate how the Ravens succeed on third and medium, and maybe where I think they should shift some of the targets away from one guy to some others, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.